Buddy, welcome once again to another one of the live streams. Welcome to this week, and what a week it has been. It's always good to be back here on a Sunday so that we can talk a little bit about the news, and we'll talk, of course, about whatever is on your guys' minds. So I think it's going to be a pretty good show. We got a little bit of news. Today, of course, today is also Father's Day. So in celebration of dads, we're going to dedicate the show to dad jokes. So here's what I'm looking for. I want all throughout this show, I want the best dad jokes in the chat. I've come up with about 7. I brought 7 dad jokes, and I'm going to release them throughout the show. But I want to see the best that you guys can come up with. So start hitting the dad jokes in the comments. I will read every one, even the bad ones. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, before we jump over and say hi to chat, I just want to quickly say hi to those of you who are watching on the replay, because probably about 75% of our total views come from the replay. And I absolutely appreciate each and every one of you, because I know sometimes Sunday afternoon, not the easiest time to be here. So you guys rock watching this on the replay. All right, let's take a quick look and see who we got in the chat. And don't forget, chat, I want to see some dad jokes today, because we're celebrating Father's Day as we also celebrate this week. I guess that kind of makes sense. Anyway, so we got Enid in the house. Good afternoon, Enid. And Jill is in the house. Hello, Jill. We've got Stan in the house. Good afternoon, Stan. And we got Harp. Hello, Harp. It's good to see you. This is going to be awesome. So before we jump into the news, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about a mouse. So yesterday morning, one of the cats was outside, the male cat. He tends to be a bit of a mouse chaser. Well, Jill opened the door to let him in, and he was in the process of chasing a mouse. So he chased a mouse right into the house. Next thing you know, I hear Jill downstairs, because she's not a big fan of mice. She's like, "Candace, you gotta come and get this mouse." I'm like, okay, great. Well, I go to the basement, because the mouse made it down to the basement, and you had the 2 cats. Both cats, so the kitten and Riley, the older cat, and they had this mouse cornered, and they couldn't get the mouse. The mouse was really, really smart. It kept on running to places where it could hide. Now, I decided, all right, I'm going to try to help them. So I would push it out of a spot where it's hiding, and it would just run to a new one. So no chances. So at this point, I'm like, this is a smart little mouse. I'm going to see if I can get this mouse out of this situation alive. So I got a nice big bucket. So basically, it was a recycling container. And I was trying to get the mouse to go into it. The first trap I had the cats sort of come at the mouse. I had the thing set down, but I was sitting on the floor. So then the mouse decided that I was a great hiding spot. So it then ran under my butt. So I got a mouse under my butt. I got up pretty quickly, and the mouse got away again. So I'm like, all right, this isn't working. So we did it again. This time, of course, I don't sit down on the floor, and I got the mouse into the container, and then the male cat tries to jump into the container. I pulled him out, because this mouse had earned, it had earned a chance to live. Then I took the container upstairs, released the mouse. So that's the long story of the mouse incident. I just thought it was really funny, and it was kind of amusing. But all right, we're going to start off with a really bad dad joke.
Your father is so noteworthy. His discarded shopping lists are considered a key economic indicator.
Holy banana bread. Thanks, Alexa. Alexa decided to just throw a dad joke. I didn't even ask her for one. So that's kind of funny. But anyway, dad joke number 1. How does a penguin build its house? So how does a penguin build its house? It glues it together. Oh dear. All right, these are going to be really bad. So I forgive you. I forgive you guys. I apologize ahead of time. This is going to be quite the show. Anyway, I have not yet seen any dad jokes in the chat, so definitely throw some of those in. So our big story, of course, and I don't have a lot to say about the big story, but the big story obviously is we had the U.S. Fed. They got together for a rate hike that didn't happen. So they didn't exactly do a pause. A pause indicates that they're not going to be going right back. What they've done is more of a skip. So there was no rate hike, which was fantastic. But when you went through the documentation and you looked at their future projections, within those projections, they have 2 more rate hikes worked in. So we are still expecting another, well, probably 2 25 basis points rate hikes before the end of the year. So the market, well, the market at first kind of didn't like that. It went red right away, which is funny because we thought we get our pause, we get a nice green bump in the market. But by the time Powell came out and actually talked and sort of indicated that, everything's not set in stone and that it wasn't 100% unanimous, some of the numbers, that reassured the market a little bit. And we, of course, then did get a little bit of a better market, which is fantastic. So that's going to be one of these interesting things to sort of see how this is going to work out. Now, it did help as well that, some of their statistics this week that came out, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that dropped in the US, but a few of the things that dropped did indicate that inflation at least is not going as badly as everybody was anticipating, which is good. But we'll talk about that here in just a moment. But that was the US Fed rate hike. It was actually, most people kind of expected that it was going to be a pause or a skip. So it really wasn't that unusual, and it wasn't that out of situation or out of characteristic for that. So I definitely think it'll be interesting to see what they do in July. Will they maintain a longer skip, or will they just get one of those rate hikes in right away? We'll have to see. And I think the nice thing about the US Fed is they tend to be, they're not super transparent, but you can normally get a good idea of what they plan to do. Unlike the Bank of Canada, when we did that last rate hike, nobody saw that coming. Well, some people did, but most people didn't see it coming because they didn't really leak any information that sort of helped us determine what exactly they were up to. All right. Now, I got another dad joke here for you. So, what is a cat's favorite color? What is a cat's favorite color? It's purple. So purr, and then, yeah. Anyway, oh dear. Some of these are really, really bad. And I will admit, I got the dad jokes today off of ChatGPT, so they might be extra moany. So we'll just sort of keep it that way for now. I'm hoping that you guys have some really good ones, some bangers that you can hit up in the chat. So that would be fantastic. All right. Next piece of news is Microsoft. Microsoft is moving some of their top AI talent out of China into Vancouver. In fact, they've got a new lab in Vancouver that they're in the process of setting up. So this is going to accomplish a couple of things. One of the biggest concerns, of course, is with the US being a little bit annoyed with China and wanting a lot of things like, for example, chips out of China. There's a lot of strain there. And by doing this, it will help alleviate some of the strain with the US government. Another thing, too, is they also don't want the Chinese poaching some of their top talent. So by removing some of these people from China, bringing them over to Vancouver, they're probably not going to get poached by China. But you still never know. That's kind of the interesting thing. And yes, we are talking about Vancouver, Canada. So yes, we're talking about Canada. So this will be a good boost for Canadian AI sector for sure. So this could be very interesting to see how this all unfolds. Another really interesting thing, just because we're talking about Microsoft, down in the US, the FTC have filed an emergency court order. They basically are attempting to block Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. This is huge because if Microsoft is able to complete this acquisition, that's going to make them a pretty good, pretty hefty, player. A pretty hefty player in the games market. Activision Blizzard has a huge catalog of really great games, and being able to export them over to the Xbox would be huge for Microsoft. But the FTC at the last in the last minutes, like basically they had to have this done, I think, by July. They have it done. They've done it. We'll have to see how this all rolls out. I know Microsoft had issues in Europe. The UK, they had problems with the regulators, but they did get it through the regulators in Europe itself. So we'll have to sort of see how this is all going to boil down to. I know when it first was announced, like, it was more than a year ago. I had bought in. I bought into some of Blizzard's stock because I knew it was going to go up. Now, once we started getting some of these issues popping up, I did sell it at a profit because I'm like, okay, well, it's hard to say if we're going to be able to get this through. So if you currently hold Blizzard stock, Activision Blizzard stock, I'm not saying you should sell, but I would definitely do due diligence and pay attention to what's going on with this deal because you don't want to be in a situation where if it falls through, it could hurt the Activision Blizzard stock a little bit. So keep that in mind. All right. Now, before our next story, I got another dad joke. And what did the sushi roll say to the bento box? Wasabi. Oh dear, that was really bad. Oh God. Why did I come up with this idea to do dad jokes? I don't know. We have a dad joke in the chat. So where do polar bears keep their money? In a snowbank. There we go. Ooh. Another one. Did you hear about the dyslexic zombie? Hopefully he's going to give us the answer. I think. But did you hear about the dyslexic zombie? All right, Jungle Eddie, give us the punchline. It only ate Brian's. That is funny. That would be a zombie apocalypse I could get behind because I don't really know a lot of Brians, so I wouldn't miss too many people. But anyway, and Enid said, "Wow, I didn't know about this whole Microsoft moving into their AI people over to Vancouver." I think that's definitely really, really cool. All right. Our next story is all about oil woes. So we had a little bit of issues going on with oil. So Goldman Sachs this week, they cut their oil price forecast by basically 10%. So that sounds a little bit scary, but it's not really that bad because it just means that they're expecting it to hit $96 a barrel instead of, I think before they had it around $95 a barrel. And this is all because of weaker demand in China than anticipated. So don't look for oil to be too stellar, but keep in mind, right now, Oilers, that's a hockey team. Right now, oil is sitting at $71.62. Well, it was. It might be. Let me just take a quick gander here. It's now $71.60. It went down 2 cents since I started compiling all of this information together, but that is fine. So I still see oil as coming up, and I think we'll see oil do a lot more rebounding in the fall. I don't think you're going to see a lot of movement on oil over the summer. So if you're holding on to an oil stock and it's in the red, you may have to hold on till the fall if you're looking for an exit strategy. Or you could always keep it because I think oil is still a good overall long-term good play. And King of Day has us a dad joke. Why do fathers take an extra pair of socks when they go golfing? In case they get a hole in one. Yeah, exactly. Oh, speaking of golf, apparently at the US Open, a golfer managed to hit a ball into a person's ball system I don't even know what it is. It's like a ball dispenser. They managed to hit their ball into a ball dispenser on somebody's cart. And it took them a while to figure out what to do about that. And it was like a 1 in a million shot. They basically took the ball out of it and they put it nearby. And he still ended up getting par. So it didn't cost him that much. But still, that I thought was really, really funny. And Justin says, how do you deal with the 15%? Oh, this is, I was reading this like it was a dad joke. And it's not a dad joke. It's a real question. How do you deal with the 15% withholding tax on your U.S. holdings? All right. Well, there's a whole bunch of ways of dealing with that, Justin. So first of all, it all comes down to a couple of things. First of all, we'll talk about just straight up U.S. stocks. So if you're holding a U.S. stock that's a dividend payer, it's going to charge you, the IRS will withhold 15%. That's your withholding tax. If you have it in a personal account, so it's in a non-registered account, you can claim that back because there are tax credits, a foreign dividend tax credit that you can claim back at tax time, and you'll get that money back. Now, what about a registered account? You got two options. If you put it into your TFSA, here's the bad news. The IRS, the US does not recognize the TFSA as a registered account. So they will take that 15% withholding tax, but you'll have no avenue to get it back. So the worst place to put an American dividend stock is in your TFSA because you're going to just lose 15% of that dividend. No way to get it back. The other option is if you put it in your RRSP. In your RRSP, that is recognized as a registered account, so they will not touch those dividends. You'll get the entire 100% dividend, and that's pretty fine. All right, now, here's the other option. If you have a Canadian ETF that invests in American companies, there's an issue with that. That one there, you're going to be losing 15%, but it happens behind the scenes. So what happens is that management company. So let's say, for example, Purpose came out with a brand new ETF and they invested in, let's say, the top 5 on the NASDAQ. Well, all of those dividends that the top 5 on the NASDAQ, and that's probably not going to be that much because, tech companies don't tend to pay that high of dividends, but, no, I wouldn't worry so much about that for the example. So all of those companies, when the management company goes to collect the dividends, the IRS takes that 15%, bang, off of all of those. And then the company takes all of the dividends that are left, and then they use that to calculate how much they're going to pay out in dividends. So what ends up happening is you end up getting a little bit less than if, if, for example, you had the exact same ETF, but an American one and threw it into your RRSP. So technically, if you really want every single nickel and dime, when you're investing in a Canadian ETF that is investing heavily in the US, then throw that into your RRSP as well, because then you're going to get all of your don't put that into your RRSP. Buy the American version and throw that into your RRSP. So because it doesn't matter where you put the Canadian ETF, because that's happening behind the scenes. So get an American version of it, put it in your RRSP, and you are absolutely fine. So that's kind of cool. All right. And Jay says, hi, everyone. Thank you for the Fortis. Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. So every deep dive, I try to do a vote, and I come up with a new system that just try to make it a little bit more interesting, because a lot of times I have some great companies up there to vote for, and one wins and all of the other ones just don't get done. So what I'm going to do is every vote, I'll do whoever wins the vote, and then whoever gets the least amount of votes, they're going to go away. So they're leaving for the next one. So then the next draw will have everybody who was in it before, except for the winner and the one that got the least amount of votes. So basically, I add 2 new companies every single week that you guys can vote on. This way here, if your favorite just missed out, just vote again for them next week, and maybe they'll win. Maybe they can beat, maybe they can beat Apple, but they couldn't beat Fortis, for example. So there is a new fresh one up for Friday's video. So if you go over to the community tab, there is a bunch of companies that you can vote for. I think right now, QSR is currently leading. And we'll have to see. QSR was in it last week, but Fortis beat them. So QSR right now looks like they're going to win. But if you guys want one of the other companies, just get over there and vote for whoever you want. And keep in mind, too, whoever is in last place won't be back next week as well. So if your favorite is in last place, you probably definitely want to vote for them to try to get them out of last place. So just go over there, vote. I usually, I'm glad you said that, Justin. Justin. You're going to see my portfolio on Tuesday. Every quarter, I do a deep dive into my portfolio. And as you guys know, I love Blossom. So, if you want to see my portfolio anytime, just go over to Blossom. There's a link down below for that. Now, Blossom only shows you the percentages. So when you look at it, you'll see that I have 5% of this, or maybe 6% of that. That's fine. But what I'm going to do Tuesday, so Tuesday's video, I'm going to go through my portfolio. We're going to use Blossom, but I'm going to show you my in Blossom, you have two settings. You have a back end setting where you can set it on private. And when you do that, then you can see all of the dollar value and everything. So we're going to do that. We're going to show you my portfolio on Tuesday, show you every single dollar, every single cent. The other thing, too, that you can do as well is channel members get to see everything I do. So what I do for channel members is when dividends come in, I send out a message to them. I let them know everything I'm buying, everything I'm selling. Now, you can see what I buy and sell on Blossom. You don't get to see all of the dividends coming in. And I also send out a monthly dividend summary as well. And plus, they also get an exclusive video. The exclusive video was kind of fun this time around. They get to vote every month what that exclusive video is. And this time, they voted for a reaction video. So, and this is a funny story. So I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to do? And I'm looking at my feed, and I noticed Grand Stefan did one, and it was called, Spot the Secret Millionaire. And I'm like, oh, well, I can't do that one because Grand Stefan just did that one. So I went in, I went over to Jubilee because they have a lot of videos like that. And I found this one where it's like, rank people from richest to poorest. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this. So I'm doing it. After I've done it and I'm setting it up and I'm seeing if I need to put kind of disclaimer in there so it doesn't get copyright stuff on it, even though it is a private video because it's for the channel members only. I was like, I wonder what Graham Stefan puts on his. So I went and I looked, and when I opened it up, I was like, oh my God, he just had a different name for it, but it's the exact same video. So I ended up doing the exact same one that Graham Stefan did, but that's fine. It was fun. So, and that's the thing. It's whatever. I let them vote on anything. They can basically say, hey, they can make me do a deep dive on a company if they really want to. But I normally say don't do stuff like that because I'm going to do the deep dives anyway for the whole community. Ask me to do silly stuff or ask me to, do stuff like a reaction video, which was something different. So anyway, that's all over there. And every month as well, I normally drop a few free memberships out there as well. So if you are lucky enough to win one of those, when I drop them, I dropped I think I dropped 5 or 6 in total last week. You can always go back and check out any of the previous ones. So it's kind of a neat little deal there. All right, now let's take a look here. Now, do you use stops in any of your positions? When I'm swing trading, I will use stops, but most of my longer term investments, I don't really have stops in place, but I do have ones where, for example, I watch. So currently, and you'll learn about this on Tuesday. Right now, one of the ones of concern for me is my DIV positioning. So that's my diversified royalty. And the reason I'm concerned is only because their payout ratio is crazy. It's getting up towards 200%. And that, to me, is alarming. Even though this here is a royalty company, they have almost no overhead. They have been reliable. They've never missed anything. But they're on my radar. So I'm paying close attention to them. I don't want to get out, but I may have to if that continues to go up. Like right now, I am in profit on them. So even if I sold, I'm selling in the green, but I still love them. It's a great little company. So I don't want to get out, but I'm paying attention and I will get out if the fundamentals get any worse on that, especially on that payout ratio. If that payout ratio starts to come back, now they did recently, I know there was a recent thing with Air Miles and they do hold the royalty for Air Miles. So I don't know if that has impacted that somewhat, but we're going to find out. So, all right. Let's see. What time on Tuesday? Okay, so 1 p.m. Eastern is when that video will drop. So 1 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. Where do you keep all your holdings? Is Wealthsimple good? Yes, I do like Wealthsimple. Wealthsimple is, well, first of all, they're commission free. Second of all, they have this habit of giving customers what they want. It's like a lot of times I'm like, okay, thinking out loud, this is what I'd like to see Wealthsimple do. All of a sudden, Wealthsimple announces it and they start doing it. So Wealthsimple is really, really good that way. I like that I'm not being nickeled and dimed to death. I love not paying commission, especially if you want to make a lot of trading. Now, I do have some stuff over at National Bank. That's where I keep. That's where I keep the swing trading stuff because I keep that separate from my investment stuff because that's more swing trading is pay the bills. Investment is work towards a future. That's the way I look at that. But yeah, no, I do like it. If you have never been involved with Wealthsimple, I do have an affiliate link down below. And what they will do is they'll give you a random amount between $5,000 and $3,000. Most people normally get $5 to $10, to be honest. But I have had a few people that I think only one person who used my affiliate link got a crazy amount. And I know Ryan Hemsley over on the High Rye channel, he had a few times where a few people got the 3,000, and I was just like, wow, that's really, really cool. So there is that opportunity. It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy to use. They have a lot of options. They have, if you want crypto, they've got crypto. They now have, when I said they have a lot of options, they now have options. They're even, I don't know if they've started something where you can lend some of your stocks out, but I haven't really looked too deep into that yet. So I don't want to really say too much on that one. I think, though, you may have to have them in a personal account. I don't know if they can lend out from your TFSA, but it is another way that you can make some money. They also have, you can get, if you want US accounts, you can have that with them. But to get US accounts, you have to either pay $10 a month to have Pro, or if you're holding more than $100,000 balance, you get Pro for free. So, there's definitely a lot of options there. I do like Wealthsimple and highly recommend them. All right. Hello, Richard. It is good to see you. Keep in mind, guys, this is Father's Day. So if you got your best dad jokes, throw them in the chat. All right. So Justin says, okay, let's say I own some US shares. Do I pay the 15% on my yearly dividend income, or is it taxed every time I receive a payout? You get taxed every time you get a dividend. If it's not in your RRSP. So if you have it sitting, let's say in your TFSA, 15% gone every single month. If you have it in your personal, you still lose that 15% off of those dividend payment every month, but you can get that back. All right. Have about $1,500 to place in a dividend stock. What do you recommend? It's a good question. There is a lot of really good stocks out there, and it really boils down to a couple of things. And I know that Gary, if you're looking for passive income, that's kind of a different situation, or if you're looking for a total return. So there's definitely a lot of stocks. I'm not going to name one particular stock, because if I were to say, oh, go invest in this, and then it tanks, you're coming back, and we're having a discussion about that. So I would just basically say there's a stat that I like to look at. Even when I'm looking at dividend stocks, I like to look at return on equity. I like to see that return on equity at least, if I'm going to put a lot of money into it, I would want to see it about, I would say 20% or better. That way there, I know that that is going to be a reliable stock and I don't have to worry so much about it. But I do like royalty stocks. Everybody knows I love Canoe. Some of the Hamilton ones, HYLD, I know we've all been on that one before, but they did recently cut that dividend, so that has them a little bit on my radar. Purpose has, well, here's this thing. Purpose has this YTSL, which is their their Tesla fund, and it just keeps on making money like crazy. But it's one of those ones, and I'm not saying you should use the Tesla fund, but it is one that if you were to use it, pay a lot of attention to it and don't be afraid to take profits along the way. I sold 35 of those stocks last week, I think it was roughly. About a week ago, I sold 35 of those because the stock had been going up so much, well, the ETF, that it pushed me from a 5% holding up into a 6% holding. So I needed to get back down to 5%. And of those 35 stocks I sold, the actual return on investment on those stocks was like crazy. It was, oh my God, adding in the dividends, it was like, it was above 60%. I mean, it was just crazy, crazy, crazy. So it really looks down to that. But if you're looking for more long-term stability, I would avoid some of the really high dividend ones and maybe look at something more of a total return. Some of the royalty things, like Sir Royalty, is one I like as well. It is one of these ones that always tends to be green in my portfolio. There's a whole bunch of other ones like FRU, so that's Freehold Royalty. They're also really good. So there's a lot of different stocks that you can definitely take a look at, which is fantastic. All right. And let me see here. Also, I have list videos that have a lot of different stocks in them as well. So definitely check out some of them, give you some ideas to, start your due diligence just to make sure that you're making the right decision. All right. And yikes, not sure what the yikes is. Hello, Bleak. It is great to see you. MMP is a good place to start. Just my personal opinion, though I do not know much, though. And that I know. Gary's awesome. Actually, me and Gary once did the crypto night in Canada. We filled in for the dancers one night, and that was an awesome show because Gary's a fun person, very knowledgeable, very, very knowledgeable. Always fun to talk to Gary. Let's see. What's your favorite top 5 dividend Canadian stocks? Well, I think I just kind of mentioned a whole bunch of them. I love royalty stocks. I love Canoe. Everybody kind of loves Canoe. Another stock that I started buying back in January. I've finally got them almost up to a 5% is QQCC. So that's an ETF. It's based on it's a Horizon ETF. They pull their stocks from the NASDAQ, and I kind of had a suspicion that we were going to see some really positive stuff happening in the NASDAQ with the hype coming on with AI. So I rode that up pretty well, and that's been doing well for me. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of different ones. And yes, that's what I was mentioning. On Wealthsimple, it appears you can lend out your stock. Oh, you can in the TFSA. Okay. I wasn't sure. I didn't look into it too deeply, but it is an extra way to add a little bit of extra money. One of the things I have, and this is something I haven't had a chance to look at, to be honest, but I want to make sure that if I lent out a stock, I don't want to have to split the dividend on that stock because then it may not be as good to do that. But I do know that you can end it at any time, so it can be a very short-term thing. But on my long-term growth stocks, that may not be a bad idea. Let's see. Yes, you can. They lend my AMC stocks. I made a whole 90 cents. Holy banana bread, Harp. What are you going to do with all that? That's pretty big. All right. I got a dad joke here. So why did the slice of bread go to the dentist? Because it needed a filling. Oh dear. Trust me, these keep getting worse and worse and worse. So crypto, we mentioned crypto just briefly. There were some crypto woes this week. So here's what's happened. Robinhood, which is kind of like Wealthsimple in the US, they delisted Solana, Cardano, and Polygon. And in addition to that, these 3 coins also had quite a price drop. We're talking 20 to 30% drop in their value. So that's not good for altcoins. And a lot of it all boils back to that SEC lawsuits. They have been impacting altcoins the most because they're not going after Bitcoin or Ethereum. It looks to me like, yikes, could be a rough ride if you're into the altcoins. Now, once again, and I'm always saying this, the big expert on crypto, of course, is the friggin' Oracle. So, if you just look up the friggin' Oracle on YouTube, check him out. He has a live stream Fridays and Saturdays. You can go in there and ask tons of crypto questions. He's got the lowdown, especially on altcoins. If there is an obscure coin out there, he probably knows about it. So that's kind of cool. Okay. So lending is basically like a stake. Yeah, it sounds like it's sort of like a stake. Although I would assume that there's probably better regulation around it. And I know that it was, see, now I know that also it's not just, and this is kind of funny, it is also National Bank sent me something as well. And National Bank, you can't do it in your TFSA, it has to be in your personal. But I think with National Bank, they said something about insuring it up to 102% or something. But once again, I need more information on this one. I just didn't have time this week to dive into this. But if it's a way to make money on a stock that it isn't going to, even 90 cents is 90 cents. It all adds up and it all snowballs too. Like, how long though was that 90 cents? Was that for a month? If that's a month, and is that just one stock, or it really comes down to do the math, and then that'll determine if it's, of course, going to be profitable to do that. All right. Got some more news. We haven't run out of the news yet. So Bell Media. Big news with Bell this week is that they're cutting 1,300 jobs, and they're actually shutting down 9 radio stations. Oof. Apparently, they've had some pretty big declining revenues, and that, I mean, I can kind of understand. I mean, how many people listen to the radio that much anymore, really? It's rare that I will listen to the radio. So one of the interesting things, a Bell executive actually said that they have too many media brands, so they're going to be looking at consolidating some of them as well. So that's going to be interesting. So, for example, I think they're consolidating their news networks. So CTV, CP24, and BNN are all going to sort of merge. That way there, they can sort of pick the best of the talent and they can get rid of some of the redundancies. So it's really, really interesting to see how this is all going to end up. Now, we'll do one more dad joke, and then I'll get back to chat here. Why did the plant get in trouble at school? Because it kept leafing through the textbook. Why would you get in trouble for that? But anyway, I would think, if anything, if a student's interested in the textbook, that's kind of like an eager beaver. But hey, that's just me. Let's see. For some strange reason, I'm earning 16.38% APY on my Cosmos. Interesting. And I take it, is that, wow, that is interesting. And so Jill listens to CBC Radio. I think CBC Radio is fine. And besides, that's not a Bell property. So, yeah, King of Day. Cardano is kicking my behind. Yeah, it's, and keep in mind, the news article I pulled, the 20 to 30%, didn't include Friday. And I think there was a big drop on Friday as well. Cardano, it's one of these ones that if you had seen this coming, you could have moved out. Now you're at a point where if you're down 61%, it's hard to move out, right? But at the same time, how far is this going to go? Hopefully not too much further. Hopefully it can rebound, because I thought Cardano was a pretty good altcoin. Like, they were one of the ones that I wouldn't have considered a fringe coin. And even Polygon, I thought that one was good as well. So, and I mean, Solana, people have been building stuff on Solana. So I'm really surprised to see those 3. I can think of a lot other ones that it could be instead, but it's just one of those things. And Justin is staking over at Coinbase. Okay. Okay, well, hopefully you haven't lost too much, Justin. Um, it's just one of those things. What can you do? And I know even Bitcoin dropped this week down to 25K. I think there's a lot of pressure right now on crypto. So for those of you who don't do crypto, you don't have to worry about it, which is fantastic. But for those of you who are into crypto, just really pay attention to what's going on, because the last thing I want to see is you guys losing money, and like poor King a Day down 61%. That's a hard pill to swallow. Um, I don't know how much you have in Cardano King a Day, and I don't want don't tell me, but 61%, unless it's a huge amount, um, I would almost be tempted to ride it out, see what happens. But oh, it'd be tough. It would definitely be tough, especially if you got a lot of money in it. Then you're like, oh, yeah. And I think everybody feels this way. Justin saying sorry for your losses, King. Hopefully that things turn around after this whole SEC lawsuit. Once this all unravels and eventually, or at least comes to a conclusion. Now, I think even Tether lost its tether to the U.S. dollar and dropped down to 99 cents. So there's definitely a lot of stuff going on in crypto, and it's not on the positive side at this moment. So hopefully it gets back together. All right. Now, our next little news story is all about. Oh, and there's the friggin' Oracle right there. He's almost here. So yeah, so that's what I was saying. For the crypto questions, head on over to the friggin' Oracle's channel. He'll answer especially the alt questions. So he probably has a better idea what the heck is going on with Solano and Cardano and Polygon. So it's kind of one of those things where it's not the best news, but hopefully they can recover. And I'll ask you right now, Ken. So King a Day is down 61.15% on Cardano. Do you think it's going to recover? Is this a situation where he might be looking at an exit strategy, or do you think that this has a chance of actually recovering so that he can start getting some of that money back? And maybe Ken might want you, King a Day, just to go over to his channel and talk about it. But put that out there. He may have a few more insights that I don't have, because Ken watches crypto a lot better than I do. So yeah, when BTC and ETH dips, they all dip, of course. That makes sense. Oh, should put that up there so people know what I'm talking about. So yeah, same. Kids on the ice, and I'm at the rink listening. Awesome. Hopefully, are they playing hockey? Are they winning? And let's see. Cardano is a hard one, as the dev has failed to deliver time over time. So, that's never good. That's never good. Just from hearing that alone, if I held on to my Cardano stake, I would be looking for a exit point once it recovered, if it did. So, that is tough. Okay. Let's see. They are very dipped at the moment. Hopefully a big pump soon. I hope so. It would be nice to. I don't like to see anybody in the community lose money, so we should all be making money. That's the goal here. All right. So we got a big strike about to happen on the West Coast. So the BC port walkers. I was going to say walkers. Like, what's a port walker? So the BC port workers are all set to strike. So the BC port why can't I say workers today? So the BC port workers, they're part of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union. So they voted to strike. And it was a 99% in favor of striking. So here's why that's bad. The reason that is bad is that we're talking about two major West Coast ports that would be disrupted. So you'd be looking at Vancouver as well as Prince Rupert ports. And collectively, these are two of Canada's busiest ports. They handle about $350 billion in goods annually. So that's a lot of money. In total, roughly 16% of Canada's total traded goods move through these ports. this would not be a good thing. And the reason it wouldn't be a good thing is, if you guys remember the issues we had with supply chain, this is a brand new supply chain issue if the strike goes on for any significant amount of time. This, of course, can lead to inflation, more inflation. So definitely not a good situation. And also, if you've got these ports on strike, all of a sudden we're in a situation where people in BC start needing to ship stuff from the east just to try to make, just to get goods and services, mostly goods, just to get it across. It might be good for the rail system, but definitely this is not a good thing for Canadian consumers. So hopefully this is not going to be a long thing. And yeah, as the friggin' Oracle said, yeah, boats won't get unloaded and food will rot. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And King of Day is going to ride it out. All right, that's good. Hopefully, King of Day, your patience will pay off. Oh, they're practicing today. All right, that's kind of cool. Now, do they practice all through the summer, or do you have like hockey school for them and things like that, or do they take more of a break from the ice? Or hey, I am just kind of curious. All right, so that was the BC port workers. Wow, it's time to have a sip. Okay, got another dad joke. Why was the broom running late? Because apparently it overswept. Oh dear. I think that's the last one I have. So if you guys still, as usual, if you got any dad jokes, throw it in. It is Father's Day. Those are awesome. Okay. Oh, we play all summer, 3 days a week. Awesome. Awesome. That's so cool. That is very, very cool. All right. Next little story. Cineplex is in the news. So their revenue between April 1st and June 11th, it's up to 88% of what it was the same period in 2019. So they're almost back to pre-pandemic levels. This is actually pretty good. It shows that people are starting to go to the movies again. And of course, as good as this is, we have a writer's strike coming. So, well, there is a writer's strike. So that leg from that, you're going to start to see, movies slow down a little bit. So that doesn't help Cineplex, but it is good to see that they've got their everything are getting better. And oh dear. All right. Well, anybody who wants a less than family version joke, you can check out that one in the comments. I'm not going to say that on air though. Oh dear, Ken. Holy banana bread. That's funny. So the US CPI dropped this week. So for a rare week, it came in exactly as expected. So they were expecting a 0.1% CPI, and we got a 0.1%. Core came in at 0.4%. They were expecting 0.4%. So that was exactly as expected, which is fine. The market was okay with that as well. PPI, which is the Producers Price Index, they were expecting a negative 0.3. It actually exceeded that well, came in at 0.2. And then for core, they were expecting 0.0, and that came in at 0.1. So PPI definitely showed a good movement in the right direction with inflation. So that is really, really, really cool. Now, I have another story. And this one is a Ken story. This is the type of story I would expect from Ken. And Ken, I apologize because this is funny. So New Zealand, they seized a whole bunch of meth that was being shipped out of Canada. Well, it didn't actually make it out of Canada. I'll explain in a second. But yeah, basically a sting operation between New Zealand, Canada, and there was another country involved. I don't know who they were. But they seized 713 kilograms of meth. So how did this happen? Well, apparently the Canadian drug people were hiding it in maple syrup, in Canadian maple syrup. And somehow the Canadians found out or figured it out first because they had seen a similar thing happening in canola oil. So they found it. They got rid of all of the meth. So that way, they shipped sort of fake meth in maple syrup over. And once they got to everybody in New Zealand, those people were all arrested. So I think about 11 people got arrested for it. But maple syrup, a new way to get high with it, I guess. Holy banana bread. So yeah. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about next week. So next week in Canada, we've got on Monday, we got the PPI, so your producer's price index, that will come out. Other than that, that's about it. The US, so the US market is closed on the 19th because it's a holiday in the States. That is Juneteenth Day. It's a new holiday, and I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm not even sure what it is. I think it's related to Martin Luther King, but I could be wrong. Any of the Americans in here, tell us what this Juneteenth is. Is it like Martin Luther King or something of that nature? I think it is, but I don't know 100%. Then on Thursday, they get some job data. So jobless claims are coming in as well. Earnings wise in Canada, not a lot. I guess the biggest company that's dropping their earnings this week is Empire Co. So that's EMP.A. Their growth they've grown a tiny bit in the last 3 months, but it's been up and then everything's been down since then. So I expect their earnings to be pretty flat. Like I don't see any opportunities to make money off of those earnings. So video wise, coming out Tuesday, we're going to via Blossom, we're going to go through and do a complete deep dive on my portfolio. And Joe, thank you. Here we are. Okay, Juneteenth is to celebrate the end of slavery in the US. Awesome. All right, good to know. All right, I will never forget that. That's awesome. That's a type of event you need a holiday for. I would agree with that 100%. All right. Now, what was I going to say? Oh, right. I was mentioning what we have coming up. So Tuesday is going to be our deep dive on my portfolio. And then on Friday, we will do the normal deep dive. And that will be, right now, it's looking like QSR, but you guys get over there on that community tab and vote. And we will have anything. We'll do whoever wins, that's what we're doing. So, all right, let's get back here to the comments. All right. Andrew says, what is your opinion on upcoming recession? Do you think we should start holding more cash? Here's the thing about a recession. When a recession is called, we've usually already been in it for a while. And normally a bull market will generally start happening around the middle of a recession. So if you think about it from that perspective, we could be already heading towards that bull market. And technically, if you look at our low on the S&P 500 from October to where it's at now, we are technically in a bull market, but I wouldn't call it a real bull market. So I think the bottom, even though every sign out there says the bottom isn't in, it kind of feels like it is. I'm keeping an open mind about it. When it comes to whether you should be holding more cash or not, that's kind of up to you. That's kind of be your decision on whether you want to do that. But here's what I would say. I think the amount of opportunities to buy some really good deals are starting to come to an end. So if you do have a situation where you can lock in some really good profits on something now, and you want to then look, because I think there's still going to be a little bit more of a bump. I think the financial sector hasn't finished. Like they're going to be hurting. This is going to be really interesting. I think you could almost say this sector's in a bull market, this sector is not. And I think financials, especially the big six banks, they're going to be suffering for a little bit because these interest rates are, once people have to start renewing mortgages and have to start paying these much higher rates. So within the next couple of years, we're going to see a lot of pain in that sector. Um, so I'm of the, I'm one of the, it's kind of this thing. I find if you're sitting on a lot of cash, it's not making anything for you. But at the same time, if you currently are sitting on cash, then just be strategic with what you buy. Look for some good deals. You're going to get them, and maybe start moving in that way. You don't have to move everything in all at once, but there's going to be, definitely going to be some opportunities. And if you do love, if you're a long-term investor and you're thinking long-term, then I think there's going to be more opportunities even still within the Canadian banks if you want to get into them. So there's a lot of opportunities still left. All right. And King of Day says, don't mess with our maple syrup. No, we actually have a strategic maple syrup reserve. And here's a funny thing. A barrel of maple syrup is worth more than a barrel of oil. So, think about that. And we have the most maple syrup in the world. So that's definitely a thing. The loonie is at a 6-month high against the USD at 0.7575. That's not too bad. Hopefully it doesn't go too much higher than that, because when the loonie gets too high, then it does hurt a little bit of our trade. And well, okay, yeah, we already did that. Wondering when Canada rates start decreasing. Does it normally follow US forecasted possibly 2024? It really comes down to a couple of things. I know at the beginning of the year, I thought by the end of the year we would see our first rate cut. I'm not entirely sure of that at this point, only because inflation did get a little sticky. So I'm thinking that 2024 estimate they have in the States is probably going to hold up for Canada as well. So let's keep that going. And yeah, there's a 61 carbon tax lingering. If it passes, it'll be a rough ride. Absolutely. Problem here is people have jobs, which is great, but the amount that people are paying right now in interest payments, and now new taxes, it's going to be a situation where there'll be nothing left over. Now, you guys are special because you guys know about investing and you guys are making, you guys got the passive income coming in and things to help, which is great. But you take people who don't understand about investing and who've never done it, and they're just living paycheck to paycheck, and their paychecks keep getting smaller as they're losing more and more buying power. I would hate to be in that situation. And let's see, Friggin' Oracle says, I went to Home Depot today and was given a paper bag. Wow, give it 5 years and we will be saying save the trees again. Maybe. Well, here's the interesting thing. When we order our groceries, they give us all these free cloth bags. So I'm just like, what the hell? How much more are they costing? But then again, there might be a surcharge that I'm unaware because, Jill's doing the groceries. Maybe there's a surcharge and we're being charged like 5 cents a bag or something. I honestly don't know, but it's to the point now that we could start our own little cloth bag store. There's so many of them. So that's kind of funny. Exactly. Wait until those defaults happen on the mortgages. That's going to be one of the tough things. So we'll have to, and it's going to be that situation where if we keep on raising, well, here's the one good thing. If we raise the rates more, they're going to have to come back down probably sooner, because I think hopefully the Bank of Canada decides to pause again. And that last one was just a one time, let's pause. Let's give them a little bit of time to filter through the system. The other problem we do have is right now we've got a government that likes to spend money on a lot of stuff, and that's not helping inflation. It's not helping, the Bank of Canada get what they need to get done. So it's kind of like, and I think the Conservatives compared it to hitting the brake and the gas at the same time. That's kind of a bit of a situation. So I think, I'm not trying to say the Liberals have to go, but I'm saying they need to get their act together and cut back on the spending. Just cut back, because people can't afford to pay all of this extra interest, and they don't need new taxes. Not right now, But that's just what I feel about the taxes. Um, what does everyone do with the reusable bags? I've been throwing them in the trash. Look at that. Yeah, and Gary thinks we're going up another 25 in July. I'm kind of or a quarter, sorry, yeah, 25. I'm thinking the same thing. I'm thinking that another 25 probably. Um, unless we get some miracle, unless some miracle happens, but it's that situation. We got to get the spending under control, and that's the only way we're going to be able to stop this. And we're at a point right now that, and this is the thing, there's a lot of long-term consequences. And it's not that normally I would say, okay, interest rates used to always be high. You could look back to the 70s and the 80s, and people are used to higher interest rates. Problem is during the pandemic, the government did indicate, oh, these low rates are going to be around for a while. We're not going to raise them. Don't worry about it. Go out and get your mortgages. And that's what people did. People went out, they over borrowed more than they should have, but the government kind of egged them on a little bit to do it. And that is where that issue comes. And all of a sudden, you know, inflation wasn't transitory. Inflation's getting out of control. We need to start raising those rates. And that's when things got a little bit, well, things got out of control. And that's kind of where we're at today. So it's not a good situation, I think, for a lot of people. And I'm hoping that people who took 5-year in the pandemic, I'm hoping in a couple of years when those come available, that maybe will be into the downward cycle. Um, and at that point, then you have to sort of determine, well, do I want to go fixed or do I want to go variable at that point? So there's definitely a lot of things right now, and there's a lot of people that are looking. They've got that impending doom sitting over their head called mortgage renewal. And there's a lot of people with some really good rates right now they got in the pandemic. And when those rates go away, they're just not going to be able to pay their mortgage. And you're going to see a lot of defaults. Or you're going to see situations now where you've got a lot of people amortizing their house twice as long as, and the banks are letting them do it to the point where they're pretty much every month paying, they're not even paying the full interest every month. And they're more, their overall price is just getting higher and higher. So it makes it a little bit difficult. So it's not a good situation at all for a lot of people. And, something needs to happen. I mean, we have another election in 2025. From what I think is going to happen is I think the Conservatives will probably win that one. But it will boil down to, the Conservatives are rough on the Liberals in regards to all of these taxes. And, hopefully they do something about it if they get in. But I know a lot of times, if you look at the way politics works, the opposition party will say what the people want to hear, and then they get in power and they just kind of don't really fulfill what they want, what they said they would do. Maybe it'll be different this time. It's hard to say. So we'll have to see. If the Liberals want to stay in power, they have a few things they need to do. They probably need to replace Trudeau, because I think it's at a situation where I think there's just too many people who are anti-Trudeau at this point, and they have to sort of come up with some really good solutions to come in. Now, I don't think, no matter how tenuous this deal between the Liberals and the NDP are, I believe they're going to make it to 2025, because it's really, really important for Singh to get that the dental care through. And that's where the Liberals were really smart. When they made that deal, they were like, okay, let's break this whole thing into pieces so that we can drag it all the way out to 2025. That way there, because I think Jagmeet just basically wants on his little, he knows he's probably never going to win an election. So I imagine he will be replaced for 2025 as well. But I think he wants to retire being able to say, hey, I'm like Tommy Douglas, but for dental care. I brought that in. It was me. So I think that's kind of what his game is. And I think for that reason, no matter what the Liberals do, no matter how annoyed the NDP get, I think they'll still support them on anything that deals with a non-confidence vote. So that's kind of the reality of our politics at the moment. Let's see here. Yeah, and I'll get back to the chat here. So yeah, back then, back in the 70s, back in the 70s, you could technically, one person could work at a full-time job and have enough money for a house and a car and everything else. So nowadays, two people can work and still be struggling just to put bread on the table. All right, and people can barely afford it now. Anything above 5% is going to be bad. Yeah, I would agree. My mortgage is at 6.49%, and I'm barely hanging on. I can't afford 8%. I don't think a lot of people can afford 8% either. So, see, I worked my mortgage out, and that will be the same as I'm paying now at 5%. I think it's too late for the libs now, regardless of who is in power. It may be. It may be. I like to try to say, okay, here's an opportunity for everybody. But I mean, when it boils down, if I had to place money on a bet, all of my technical analysis says it's probably the Conservatives. So I look at it that way. All right. And Lisa just got now. Hi, just got here. It's not even a dental plan. It's a check that certain income families receive that they can spend on anything they want. I thought you had to actually send the bills in and get reimbursed or something like that. But it'll be interesting to see it once it is fleshed out for everybody and see how that works out. So that will be interesting. And I think it is limited to lower income. I think it's like 90,000. I think if you make less than 90,000, you're eligible. If you make more than 90,000, you're not. But it'll be interesting to see it in the end when they have everything fleshed out. I would like to see. I've never been a fan of this. You pay up front and then they reimburse you style insurance. I would rather see if this is going to become a Canadian staple, they should work it out so that it works like your medical insurance, whether it's OHIP or MSI or I can't remember the name of the one in BC. Is it just BC Health Card or just something? I would like to see it sort of work out that way, but just another Liberal handout. Oh, yes. Well, I know there's also, I think, a grocery rebate that's coming as well. So, but it's one of these things that's like, okay, here you go. Here's a little bit of extra money to buy some food. But all the money we spent to give you that little extra handout means that your food's going to be more expensive. Huh? That's kind of how it works. But, anyway, as we're coming towards the end, if you got any final questions, get them in there. We'll answer them up before we go. If you got your final dad joke, drop that because it is Father's Day and we're trying to honor dads all across Canada by telling really dumb jokes. There we go. That is good. I don't know if I have any more dad jokes. Let me take a look here. See if I can give you guys one more. Let's see. Okay. Oh, I got the ones that are absolutely horrible. So why was the math homework so proud? Well, because it was a problem solver. Oh, dear. Enough with the handout cash from the government. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I understood the supports during the pandemic. They probably should have tried to be a little more targeted initially, but I understand they didn't really have the chance. And when you sort of close down a nation, you got to do something. But once you get that first checkout, that gives you a month to get it all figured out, right? And get it in there and make sure that, for example, you're not sending a $2,000 CERB check to somebody who is already got and got more money than they know what to do with, because that was kind of what happened. And it's, keep in mind, I know that it's easy to finger point at the Liberals, and they deserve finger pointing for a lot of stuff, but everybody, a lot of countries in the world completely botched this and didn't get it really right. So that's kind of an interesting thing just to sort of think about that way. But yeah, at this point now, the pandemic's done. There really doesn't need to be a lot more handout cash. If you're concerned about people not eating, well, get inflation down. Stop. It's kind of one of these things. In a sense, if the liberals do nothing, that will also have the same effect because it will lower inflation down as they're not spending as much, which is great. Let's see here. So in the US, when they received their stimulus checks, it went straight into the market. Yes, yes, it did that. A lot of people here did the same thing. When you look at that 2020 into 2021 bull market that we had, a lot of that was just support money getting pumped into the market. You saw the same thing in crypto, Bitcoin going up to all-time highs. So that was all where that money came from. So when you look at all of these massive, massive, S&P breaking the record every single day, we're not going to see that as much. Going into this next bull market, it's not going to take us to where we were at that peak. We'll get there eventually, but it's not going to be a quick movement because we no longer have all of that money in the market. People have had to pull that money out when the supports ended, they had to pull it out for rent. The interest rates going up, they had to pull it out to help pay for interest. Price of food going up, they had to pull it out to eat. So all of that different stuff. Ooh, and Kay Miller comes in with a dad joke. How are squirrels so good at saving money? They squirrel it away. That's good. That was a nutty joke. Come on, let's face it. That joke was nutty. See, most received 1,500 to 1,800 over a couple of months. Yeah. Well, in Canada, they gave 2,000 Canadian, so that's about 1,500 every single month. Just bang, 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 and you didn't have to do anything for it initially. Like you didn't have to prove anything, and even then, a lot of wires got crossed because I knew of people who were told, "Oh, you go get that, instead of whatever." I think one low income person I was talking to once, they were saying that they were trying to get welfare because they didn't qualify for the CERB, but the welfare people told them, "Oh no, you do qualify. Go get the CERB." And I think afterwards they ended up having to, got notices saying they had to pay it back, and I don't know if that got worked out or not. Haven't heard from them since then, but it's just one of those things. Oh, good afternoon, Mr. Red Taco. Look at this. You've come in at the end. Holy banana bread. Well, there's going to be, of course, that replay for everybody, which is kind of cool. And as I said as well, it is Father's Day. So those of you who are fathers, Gary, I know Gary's a father with his kids right now as they're skating. Happy Father's Day. I hope it works out well for all of you. I hope you have a really special day. And if you're sort of a dad, but you don't have kids, but you have pets, hey, that counts in my books. Happy Father's Day to you guys as well. And Wayne says the Canadian government lost their records of who got what. That honestly wouldn't surprise me. The CRA, and they even mentioned this in the pandemic, they need an overhaul. They need to get with the modern systems. So it's just one of these things. We got a lot of antiquated. Anytime I hear a government agency telling me I need to fax some stuff, I'm like, seriously? Faxing? Who faxes? Pretty much the government and lawyers. That's about it. And I think some insurance companies, but it's like, this is a time and age where people should not be faxing. It's a type of technology I would expect to see in the Smithsonian. So that's just what I am thinking. Mr. Red Taco says, if you look at low income assistance in this country, people get between 1,000 and 1,700, depends on the province. CERB was 2,000 a month. CERB was kind of a joke since some got it and shouldn't have. Yeah. No, I mean, it was kind of interesting. I think a lot of people who got sent home then went on the CERB. They were making more money than they were making before they went on the CERB. So of course, when jobs were saying, "Hey, you want to come back?" They were like, No, don't think so. The government's paying me too much to stay home. And I think we saw a lot of that. So, whoops, let's get that. And Wayne said the CRA still uses pencils. Probably. Brian has made it into the house, and now we can all relax. But Brian, you made it in at the very end. Holy banana bread. All right, everybody. This has been, once again, another great show. And it's always great, seeing all you guys make it here. Especially on Father's Day. Like, I expected there to not be as many folks because, some people are spending time with their dad or with their kids. All of that fun stuff. And before I give my last little speech, Lisa says, I know someone who worked 1 or 2 days a week at a minimum wage job and got served. So infuriating. Yeah, that happened to a lot of people. I had to fax something to the government a few years ago. It was expensive per page. Yikes. Yeah. It's not even that it's expensive. It's that it's absolutely inconvenient. Like, you have to go to like maybe a Staples or something. I think they still have a fax machine that you can pay them to fax something for you. Anyway, we'll be back here again next week. We'll do this all over again. It'll be fun. We'll see what the news has to do. I'm also looking to do. I am looking to bring a guest in one of my upcoming. I know Scott's said he wants to come on, and there's a few other people as well. So, I may bring a co-host on one of these weeks just to try it out. We'll see how that goes. Until then, though, everybody have a fantastic Sunday. Give some love or receive some love, all about the dads. Until next time, we'll see you guys later. Have a fantastic rest of the week. Bye, everybody.